"Is this really your horse?" "Oh, yes," the prince replied, "and you'll soon see just how amazing it is." "Well, it's time for the battle to begin. Get on your horse, prince," the king ordered. But the prince refused. "My lord, your army is too close. I can't get on my horse until you command them to move back." "And why is it necessary for me to move my army back?" the king asked, with an annoyed look on his face. "They might make my horse nervous, my lord," answered the prince. So the king commanded his soldiers to move back. The prince then shouted, "Now watch, my lord! I'm going to get on this horse, and you'll find out how smart and strong we are. Together we'll destroy your army." "Yes, yes, just get on the horse," shouted the king, who was beginning to lose his patience. There were a few moments of silence as the prince climbed up onto the horse's shining back. Everyone was feeling tense as they waited for the battle to begin. As soon as the prince was on his horse's back, he bent down and felt around the horse's stomach. All the people pushed each other to try to see what he was doing, not realizing that he had pressed the up button. At that moment, the horse flew straight up into the sky. When the king saw this, he shouted at his men, "Quick! Catch him before he escapes!" But his soldiers were afraid and shouted back, "Oh, king, how can we catch a flying horse? This man must be an evil wizard. Oh, Allah, please save us from him." Then people began to run in different directions, shouting in fear, "Allah, save us!" After watching the prince's trick, the king rushed back to the palace and told his daughter what had happened. She became violently sick and fell on her bed crying. Her father had never seen his daughter so unhappy and tried to make her feel better. "But, dear daughter, we should be thankful that Allah has saved us from this wizard who only wanted to make love to you." But he didn't realize how much his daughter loved the prince. She ignored her father's sympathetic words and told him that she wouldn't eat or drink until Allah brought her lover back to her. As the days passed, her condition became worse and worse. Her father was very worried and kept trying to help her, but she only loved the prince more and felt lonelier for him each day. When Prince Kamar al-Akmar had flown high into the sky and knew he was safe, he turned his horse toward his own country. But as he flew toward his home, he could only think of the lovely princess. Her city was called Sana'a, and he locked that name in his memory so he could return. When he finally reached his own city, he came down to land on the roof of the palace. In the palace there was a great silence. The rooms were dark and empty. He thought that someone in his family had died, so he hurried into his father's room and found all his family dressed in black, with sad, pale faces. When his father saw him, he shouted with joy and ran and put his arms around his son. Everyone cried with happiness and asked the prince what had happened to him. The prince told them about Sana'a, the princess, the king, and his soldiers. "Praise to Allah for bringing you home safely, my son," cried the king. He sent messengers to give everyone the wonderful news. He then commanded his servants to prepare the palace and the city so that they could celebrate his son's return. The streets and markets were decorated and beautiful music was played. The king and queen threw their black clothes away and went out to meet their people. Everyone danced, sang, and ate, and drank as much as they could for 7 days and 7 nights. During this time, the prince asked his father what had happened to the wizard who had invented the wooden horse. The king became angry when he remembered